Alright guys, welcome back to another video. So in this video we're going to be going over how certain genetic factors, whether it's height or limb length, can affect your training. Since a lot of people say that, oh my goodness, I can't lift this much because I'm this short, or I can't do this bench because my arms are too long, or I can't do deadlifts because my arms are too short. I'm going to be going over the benefits of certain limb lengths. I'm going to go over the negatives of certain limb lengths, the benefits of certain heights, not so many good benefits of other heights, and all that other good stuff. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright guys, so when we're going over the limb length, let's start with that, limb length. When we're going over limb length, every person typically has either shorter arms, longer arms, shorter legs, longer legs. It's not overall height, because you could have a big torso and be really tall but have tiny legs. In general, personally, from what I have really tiny legs and really long arms. So this would make me really good naturally at a deadlift, since I'm closest to the movement. I have to do less range of motion for me to get it all the way up to where it needs to be, since my arms are so long and my legs are so tiny. Although this would technically, theoretically, make me bad at the bench press. But guess what, guys? My bench is almost as good as my deadlift. The numbers are almost the same. The reason is because I train a lot more push-ups, and I do a lot more push-ups than I do any sort of I don't know what deadlift. Deadlift would be probably closer to like back, but it's also partially legs. I don't really train legs that much compared to how long I've been training back for. I do train legs though. Everybody should train all the other body parts, but I've only trained legs for like a year. I've been training back for like 2-3 years, and I'm training chest and doing push-ups and stuff since like forever. So my push-ups, my pushing strength is much higher. So really, whatever weakness you do have, and there's a great video by Jeff Nippert where he goes over this one guy who was like 7 foot tall, and he was doing a bench press. He was benching like huge amount of weight, and he's like 7 foot tall, and his arms are humongous, and he was still doing it. The thing is, even if your arms are a little bit longer and might slightly hamper your possibility for being able to move the weight, it's still not really not going to make a big difference. And I'm going to be going over the 3 core movements, by the way, when I'm doing this. So it's deadlift, bench, and squat. 3 compound movements that people usually associate with lifting in general. So when we're benching, it's easiest if you have tiny arms, because then you have a small range of motion. You don't have to push the weight so far up and so far down. It's harder if you have long arms, but you could still do that. Same thing with squat. Now, if you're squatting, it's better to have tiny legs like mine. But I'm way worse on the squat than I am with the bench press, because I don't train legs nearly as much as I train my arms. So I try to do the squat, and my legs just can't do it. Even they can, but not as well as I could with the bench press, because I haven't trained my legs for as long. And even though my legs are very tiny, theoretically I should be able to squat a whole buttload of weight. I can't squat that much weight. When you're looking at my bench press, my squat's much less impressive. And by the way, so like my bench number is like 225. My 1 rep max on like the Smith machine, because that's all I have, is like 260, 270. And my deadlift, I've never deadlifted before on max since I only have a Smith machine. So I don't know, but if I had to estimate, I'd probably say it's somewhere around maybe 300, because I tried it one time a long time ago and I got like 250. So I guess it's around 300 right now. And deadlift is naturally just easier for me. Like I don't even really have to train it that much, since my legs are just so tiny and my arms are so long. I can just grab the weight. I don't even have to like really bend down that much. I don't even have to really bend down to touch my knees. Like I just touch my kneecaps standing straight up, which is a big benefit of having long limbs, long arms. Helps me get the weight up, less range of motion, which means I can get more weight than a normal person can. But the difference isn't huge. Although it is beneficial, it's not huge. It's not going to like change anything dramatic in me. And I'm not going to gain more muscle specifically because I can gain more weight. I'm not going to be more ripped or more buff or whatever. If it's just because of my limb length, because I'm putting in the same amount of work you are, it's just that I'm doing it with a higher weight over a shorter distance. Same amount of effort though. So it really doesn't matter at all in general. If you're especially if you're going for like bodybuilding and stuff, or you're trying to build your physique, the limb length will benefit in certain exercises, won't benefit you in others, but it's not gonna make a huge difference. If you have really tiny T-Rex arms and really long legs, you're not gonna be able to lift much on the deadlift as a normal person could, but it doesn't mean that you won't be good at the deadlift or you can't be good at the deadlift. Anything you train with a lot of specificity, you'll get better at, and it makes you'll eventually get pretty good at the deadlift, whoever you are, no matter how tiny your arms are, how the long arms are, tiny your legs are, how long your legs are. But in general, if you're doing the deadlift, the most beneficial body measurements for your limbs to get the most out of it would be having small legs, long arms. Recapping the other two, for the squat, you want to have tiny legs. Tiny legs, that helps you because you don't have to move as much. You have tiny legs, small range of motion. And then for bench, you want to have tiny arms, because if you have tinier arms, you just go up and down, up and down. It's not that hard. You don't have to move the weight so far like I do. If I have to do it, I have to go all the way here and then all the way up. Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry, guys. But in general, it doesn't play a big role. Now, when we talk about height, height does play a role specifically in the amount of size that you could build on your frames. So you're taller, you have more muscle you can build, and it's the same thing if you have long arms. Like my arms are pretty long, so although I'm not that tall, I have a lot of space to put muscle onto my arms. Like I always see my arms and I flex them, and I have friends who have these big peaks here. I have this tiny little peak, it looks like, but I have these big forearms, since I get to stack up all this muscle, have all this space in my limbs. You can see my bicep stretches pretty far out. So at the beginning, when I first started working out, I'd be really upset because my arms were tiny, extra tiny, since I had so much space in my arms. But as I grow it, I have more potential for growth and getting a nice full bicep, rather than these people who have these tiny little peaks in their biceps they look good because they're peaking, but they're not full. But since I have long limbs, I get full biceps. Same thing if you have longer legs, you get a fuller looking leg because you have longer legs. And if you're taller in general, it just means that you have more spots on your body, like in your torso, which isn't necessarily a limb, it's your torso, but you'll have your chest be bigger, your everything be bigger, more muscle, more strength, more power. Typically, if you're taller, since there's more space for you to pack on muscle and grow. Although remember, there's always a key genetic factor. Like some people could be way taller than me and just have awful genetics and never build as much muscle as I can because their genetics are off. And I could be way shorter than I am right now and build even more muscle than I'm building right now if my genetics were just more built for building muscle, and I could be bigger and I could be super ripped and shredded but no, I'm not like that. So yeah, height plays a role, limbs play a role in your workout routine. In general, I'd say it's more beneficial for you not to worry about it, since there's not real big impacts that comes from heights and limb length. Doesn't really play a huge role in lifting, although people do say that smaller people can fill up their frame quicker, and large people have more of a frame to fill up. That's the excuse that small people say to large people. They're like, yeah, you're bigger, so you have more space, so you look better. And then the tall people tell to the small people, you're smaller, so you have more space on less space to fill out for you to look good. And it's excuses back and forth. In general, height doesn't really play too large of a role, and limb length plays a small role in the ability to move certain weights and certain movements. But I hope you guys learned something new. Thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.